we need to have so much energy to do so many things. So he built, when I was 11 years old, he built a bicycle-powered plane that's there on the left, and flew over the English Channel, just one of his bicycle riders did. He did a solar-powered plane that flew around the world. Just a great genius. And he also did the EV1 electric car, which is what, brainwashed me becoming a big environmentalist. I drove that car and I went, okay, this is the future. This is where we're going to go. You should have a car. If you're going to drive cars, it's so much more efficient. And I think the Paul helped start a lot of revolutions, but this is one of them. So what about if we're not lucky enough to live someplace with power and electricity and all the rest of it? And I talked to some friends of mine who are working in Haiti, and they said, energy efficiency there, this is part of the United Nations goal, is as important there as anywhere else. These are two ways that they currently light their houses with kerosene light and cook their food using charcoal. The cell phones, they charge them off using batteries because there's no place to plug them into. They buy kerosene, very expensive for lights at night. And if they began to switch things over to solar lamps, in like 4 months' time, you could be creating this energy essentially for free. Well, what they call it is energy poverty. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of simple solutions. Other stuff they do, by switching from a charcoal fuel stove to these miracle stoves, you can, in 4 days, you can pay them back and then be cooking for free for the rest of the time. And so a lot of people that are doing developmental work, friends I went to college with, are in places like this. How can we be energy efficient even when we don't have a grid? And there's some of their friends, and that's a company, EarthSpark, if you want to check that out. Great organization. She's got one of the solar stoves on the right there, and he's got a micro store where friends come in and they buy electric solar panels to recharge their cell phones. But the third one, and this is sort of where I wanted to sort of end my presentation, was about the most important sustainable energy of all, which is all of our sustainable energy and keeping ourselves from burning out. And whatever your politics are, boy, it's frustrating out there to take an idea out to the public. Everybody is resistant to these. People might, your friends might humor you, but it's difficult to stay really inspired. I took some pictures of this at the Occupy movement in Washington, D.C., people bringing their kids out. But, even a lot of the protesters there, after a while, get burned out. The police get burned out, having to enforce it all the time. How do we keep our energy for the future going? So I just put down 3 things that work for me and, work for a lot of people. Go outdoors. That's where I got my environmental education as a kid. The more time you spend outdoors, the more time you take kids outdoors, show them how amazing nature is and how asphalt has only so many charms after a while. Second thing, follow your bliss. Follow what really turns you on. And for me, what caught me unexpected was the electric car. I began to build a whole work out of one thing that happened to appeal to me at the time. And once you have something that you're really fired up about, you can build a community of support around it. And the only reason I've been able to do 2 films is because I have a lot of people that also were turned on by the electric car and the issues around it. So building that community is really important. And one of the great ways to do that community, whether you're a filmmaker or just sitting around the table with your friends, is to tell good stories. Now, for me, public speaking is kind of challenging. That's why I became a filmmaker. But I do know that good storytelling is the root of so many good things. And in fact, I'll backtrack. This is how I got into electric cars. My first electric car was a Mattel Hot Wheel when I was about 9 years old. I had 3 of them. They were made down here in Mattel had a factory down here. And the irony of being a kid in the 70s was that they would sell you the recharger that looked exactly like a gas tank, even though it was filling your car with electricity. And then we got fired up because the lunar rover on the super surface of the moon was an electric car. In fact, they're still there. I don't know if they're still drivable. Maybe do you have anybody from Caltech here? All right, well, there we go. I think it is. And of course, there's an electric vehicle on Mars. In fact, Mars, as Paul McCready used to like to say, there's if you look at all the celestial bodies in the universe, most of them have electric cars because you can drive them without oxygen. Okay, so there you go. I got excited about electric cars and started making films. But the way to convey enthusiasm about things, or a good way to do it, is tell good stories. When they took it away, I was pretty upset, and we didn't have a lot of protests, and protests take to a certain amount of way. It's very important to protest. But for real inspiration, you can go back to good old Aristotle, who broke down storytelling into 3 things. And what a great piece of wisdom this is from the ancients. They said every good story comes down to having 3 aspects of it. When you have your logic, you want to have a good point, like, oh, this is why you should drive an electric car. This is why you should, eat vegetarian food. Or this is why you should join the army. You want to have your logic down. But if you just have your logic, you're going to get blown right out of the water by someone who has more charisma than you, or someone who has more passion than you. And I remember in college, I was the expert on nuclear weapons. I had done a paper for the UN about that, Model UN. And I got blown out of the water by some really attractive guy at the bar. It was like, oh, you can't trust the Russians, you don't know anything. Everybody listened to him because he was like way cooler than I was. And Aristotle said, yeah, that's because he's really cultivated his ethos, his charisma. So, and the last part of it, of course, is passion. And this is how much passion do you have for what you're doing. If you've got passion, man, it is contagious. And so you put the three things together, whether you're telling a story or you're making a film, it can be very convincing. Case in point, I'm going to show you just a little clip of two gals who have way more charisma than me telling a story about their electric car springs. This is actually about their arrest in Burbank.
It's a very practical car in a lot of respects. You want to act like it's some wild out idea. 20 years ago, someone said you could have a phone that you could take anywhere, but you're going to have to remember to plug it in. There would have been plenty of people go, oh, that's not crazy. What, plug in a phone and have to take it somewhere?
Why would I do that?
Oh, that sounds like there's a payphone right down the street. It's not just about the car, it's about the principle and the energy of people's ingenuity. We had made a decision.